Hi, everyone. I'm Alanna Anthony, and I'm just waiting for everyone to come in. I kind of feel like Rhea here. In the last video, she was saying she wished she went live from her phone, and I'm feeling the same way. So we'll see how this goes. I see somebody is joining. Hey, Rhea. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I know it is 9 o'clock or past 9 o'clock. We were supposed to start at 9, and I wanna go ahead and not take up too much of your time. So I am Alanna Anthony, and I am the founder and content curator behind Financialdemics.com, where I help women manage their cash flow, build a savings, and pay off debt. So I am here tonight to talk about my money, our marriage. I really want to thank Fab Wives for inviting me to contribute to the Financially Fab series. I'm all about building up financial literacy, getting our money right so we can do everything that we dream of in life. I don't want any of my friends to be broke, and when I'm going to do big things, I want them to be able to come. So this is great, and I'm glad this is something that you all are doing. So, money. We've heard plenty of studies that say that money is the main reason for divorce or either communication about money. There's a lot of money infidelity that happens in marriages. And then there's just a lot of people in marriages who are not on the same page. But that's okay. Long as you know how to deal with it, you'll be able to survive in your marriage and be able to do the things and work towards what the dreams that you have as a couple. So before I get started, I want to ask how many of you all have merged your money? And just drop it in the comments. Let me know that if you've merged your money with your spouse, if you're still working on it, if it's not working out too well, things like that. Let me know in the comments, and we'll go from there. The one thing I'm going to say is that when it comes to money, money is very emotional. Oh, just this year? Okay. Okay, Quanisha says no, she hasn't. All right. Well, like I said, money is very emotional. And this is the one thing where I have realized through even my own marriage that if you're vulnerable with your spouse, this is one thing you have to be vulnerable about. I feel like as husbands and wives, a lot of time in today's society, we're trying to be like who is better or who's controlling who. But this is, if you can't be vulnerable with your spouse, then who can you be vulnerable with? So with money, you just really have to become vulnerable, be open about it, and talk freely about it with each other. So I'm going to talk about some ways where you can be vulnerable with your spouse and really get on the same page. And even if you're not, adjust appropriately. Because just to be real, me and my husband, we are completely different when it comes to money. It's very interesting. Oh, okay. Lauren says she's recently engaged, but they plan to. And Shannon says this year. Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about me and my husband's story. I've only been married for 2.5 years, so I'm far from being an expert, but it was just helpful for me to really understand how he felt about money and how I felt about money and how we could come together on it. So initially when we got married, we kind of decided like I was going to be the one who handles the finances because that's my thing. But as we started to try to merge, he wasn't ready to give up full control. And I realized that I was maybe a little too controlling about our money, which caused a lot of, I wouldn't say we fought, but we definitely had a lot of disagreements. And I realized that I had to really listen to what he was saying about how he felt, and he needed to understand how I felt. So for me, just to give you my background, I have a son who's 17. I was a single mother for 15 years. So for me, having control, having stability, that is a big deal for me. And so I really wanted to have like full control of everything. Like, where is this going? Where is that money going? Where is this money going? Because I was stockpiling. And for him, he was more so like, okay, well, as long as all the bills are paid, we're good. He didn't feel like, you had the need to save or things like that. Or he would save for a certain thing, but not necessarily just build a savings just because. And so when we started trying to merge the money, it was just a lot. We've come a long way, and I'm going to say God is good. So the first thing that I'm going to say is what I figured to do for us was we decided to have like a money meeting, or you can call it a money date. At our money meeting, basically we would set a time and a date, because the first thing is you don't just want to have a money conversation randomly. You can, and we have gotten to the point where we can now, but when we were trying to merge and really trying to understand each other, I would just say, hey, you got a moment? And then he's like, yeah, I got a few moments. But when we're talking about money, hey, Kiana, money is not necessarily always the quickest conversation. So what happens is, like, you're trying to talk about it and the person has a lot to do or has somewhere to go, and they're getting aggravated. You're getting aggravated because they seem like they're trying to brush you off. And so it just ends up not being a good situation. And then you have an attitude, or you're not feeling him just because it was truly meaning that either he had to leave, or even if it was the husband trying to have the conversation, she had to leave. And so I would say, like, set up a money meeting. Some people have gotten fancy with their money meetings, so they actually go out and actually like go somewhere nice and have dinner or lunch to discuss, their money situations. And actually, one of my friends told me that was better for them because they couldn't argue because they were in public. So if that works for you, that works for you. For us, we just do it at the house because that's how we do. So we have a money meeting. We set a time and a date, and just to talk about our finances. And we try to leave it like something where we don't have anything else to do. So there's not a rush or anything, or even just so we're not leaving anything hanging. Like, we normally come to a good consensus. So I definitely would say to have a money date, make sure you set a frequency. At first we were doing it monthly. Now we've gotten used to it that I don't even feel like it's really formal anymore. It's kind of like, are you free? Let's talk, let's have a discussion. Or sometimes it's like Sunday mornings because we're both just at the house. And so, the conversation comes up. Like, we had a money date. It was impromptu. I really think it was like Sunday morning. We had a money date. So we talked about our future plans and things that we want to do and how we want to do it. I also would say the mood. Make sure the mood is right. If your spouse is not in a good mood, just abort. Or even if they start in a good mood and the conversation goes left, abort and come back later when you're in a good mood. That conversation is not going to end well. I'm just telling you, I've done it. I've had clients who have done it. It just didn't end well. When somebody's not in a good mood, or they already are aggravated, and you're trying to have a conversation as deep as money and how the money is being spent, or how, what dreams you have, it just is too deep for that person at that time. So just make sure that you are in the right mood, you all are feeling good. And that's why it's good to set the money date, because you already know, okay, we're about to talk about this. So let me just open up. Like, when my husband says to me, you have a minute, like he did on Sunday morning, like, I knew, okay, start thinking, like, open your mind up. It's time, get in the mood for it. If I said, no, I don't have a minute, he would just say, okay, well, we'll talk later. So just make sure, everybody's in good spirits before you actually start talking about money. And then I would say to also be open-minded. So this comes in connection with talking about your dreams. So the first thing I'm going to say that you really, really, really should do is understand what your spouse wants in life and make sure they understand what you want in life. And these things change. And this is why the money date is good, because you're going to talk about these things and what you want. So for example, I'm going to use myself as examples because I don't want to tell anybody else's business. So I had to ask my husband if it was okay. We keep using our examples. So I live in New York City, and my husband is working full time. He's in school and he's changing careers and he wants to move. And I know most of you all, I think most of you all are in Charlotte, and I used to live in Charlotte. So he wants to move back to Charlotte. So that's like a big discussion for us. And we have some years to go. But we keep talking about it because we want to plan for, he wants to get his master's, and we need to plan for that. We need to plan for whether or not we're going to actually set roots in New York and actually buy a house. And if y'all know anything about New York, at these housing prices, they are not your friend. But then he loves Charlotte. So he keeps looking towards Charlotte and, what career options he has there. He keeps looking at the housing market because I know, hey, NYC, he's looking at the housing market there, and we know, like in Charlotte, housing prices are going up, and so that's a big conversation for us. And so I have to learn to be open-minded. I had to learn to be open to whatever options he has, because if I'm telling my dreams, I want him to not look at me like, what is she talking about? I'm not doing that. And so that's something you want to make sure you're doing. You want to listen to what your spouse wants, and you also want to respond well to what your spouse wants, because that's what you want. You don't want somebody to look at you like, you're crazy, or to write off your dreams. That would definitely, for me, hurt my feelings. So when I'm talking to my husband about things like that, I make sure that I listen to what he's saying. And it actually, because I'm in a good mood, because I'm being open-minded, I've actually heard things that he didn't say directly, but I really got to the root cause of all the questions he asked when we're having our money dates, because he really has this thing where he want to make sure he's taking care of the family. And when I realized that, then that opened me up more to say, okay, well, I need to make sure that my husband feels good in whatever move he's making, and that the family is taken care of. It's not just me, it's both of us. So that's the same thing. You want to make sure that the decisions you all make are for both of you, and it's going to benefit your family and your future dreams and take you towards your future dreams. And that's the good thing about money. It's the tool to get you towards your dreams. And the last thing I'm going to say is be flexible when it comes to your money date. And that that's similar to being open-minded, but flexible in sometimes things change. And so that's why having money dates frequently are good for relationships, because you want to be able to, if your spouse, something comes up and something changes, you want to be able to make that pivot. And it's easier to be flexible when you have, your budget together, when you have money in the bank, when you're working towards a goal. So we're going to get into that next. But you just really want to make sure in your mindset, that you are flexible. Because especially coming from being single into a marriage, and I know some of the ladies on here have been married for a while, you have to change that mindset. Like, it's no longer just me, and it's no longer just my check or my money coming in. It's now not necessarily, I'm not going to necessarily say it's our money, but you are one. And so some of the things that you do with your money, it needs to go towards building your legacy and building your future as a team. So anybody has any questions about that before I go on to the next topic? I'm going to go more into budgeting and bringing your finances together. I assume Tennille's in Charlotte. That's all right, though. I'm repping. I love New York, but it is cheaper to live in Charlotte. I miss Charlotte. Okay, so I don't think I see any questions coming up. Um, let's see if anything else. Okay, yes, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. So, how many of you all are currently preparing a budget, either monthly or if you ever been to my website, financialdemics.com, I am a big proponent of a paycheck budget. I budget by paycheck. It's just easier for me. I like my money to be easy. Um, so I do it by paycheck. I don't like the whole monthly thing. So is anybody preparing a budget either monthly or by paycheck, or even if it's not consistent? Okay, Selena is doing, Tennille. It's okay, Tennille. See if anybody else. Ria's doing it by paycheck. Kiana's doing it monthly. It's okay, Quanisha. Yeah, sometimes, hey, I mean, even me, sometimes I take my eye off my money and it's not a good look when it happens. Um, but it happens. We are human. We have things going on. We're married or we're going to get married, which Ria can tell you how crazy my life was when I was planning my wedding. You have kids and things like that. So sometimes it happens. It's just what it is. So let's talk about merging your money. So I saw that some of you all have been married for a little while, but you're just either merged your money this year or you haven't merged your money yet. And that's fine. I'm not here to say, oh, you should merge your money or you shouldn't merge your money, but it is better to be on the same page. So if you are looking to merge your money with your spouse, and it doesn't have to be all of your whole paycheck. We'll talk about different ways you can do it next. But if you're looking to merge money with your spouse, before you do any of that, you should know how much you make on a monthly basis. You should know all of your expenses. And when I say all of your expenses, include all your lifestyle stuff. If for the women, if you like to get your nails done, if you like to get your hair done, if you like to go get massages, include all of that stuff, because that's realistic things, and that's things that you don't expect to stop just because you merge your money with your spouse unless necessary. And then for my guys, if you have hobbies that you like to do, include your haircuts. If you have well, I was gonna say if you have electronics thing, or a love for electronics or cars or things like that, include those numbers, because those are true things that you spend money on monthly. And if you're not sure like how you're spending your money, your bank account will tell you everything, and so will your credit card statements. So I definitely would make sure you know how much you are bringing in each month and how much you're spending each month. And if you are having a consistent savings, know how much you're saving. And this is why. When you merge with your spouse is going to have their own income, savings, and expenses. When you start to look to split, you don't want to be in that position where you say, I can do more than what you really can, and then you're starting to resent your spouse. That's not what you want. It's not healthy for your relationship. And so you want to make sure that you are very clear on everything that you are paying for, and also include any future expenses. So if anybody is in school and maybe you have student loans or they're deferred, make sure that you discuss those also, because that is something that will affect your finances later on, and you don't want any surprises. You don't need that type of stress in your marriage. So make sure, and Kiana, I'll get to your question in a moment. Make sure that you know what all your income and expenses are, so that when you start coming together with your spouse, you all can truly look at, okay, how much do you make? How much do I make? What are our total expenses together? And then determine, okay, how much can we put towards either our living expenses? How much can we put towards our regular lifestyle expenses? If you have debt, you want to know how much can we put towards debt? Like, are we just going to pay minimums? Are we going to work really hard at paying off this debt? Do we want to accelerate it? Those type of plans. Those are things that you want to come together and discuss, because again, since money is one of the major causes for divorce, you want to be open about how you want to handle your finances. Another thing that's really big that people don't really talk about when it comes to their finances, and it really does affect your bottom line, is bring into insurance into the equation. So I'm not just talking about like regular life insurance, which you should get. I am an advocate of life insurance. So you should have life insurance, because if one of you all pass away, you want to be able to still live the same lifestyle. You needed to replace that person's income, because of course, as Rhea mentioned in the intro, when you have that dual income, you get used to that lifestyle. Even if you decide to live off one, you're still used to having that extra money. And it's just less stressful if you know that the spouse is taken care of. But I'm talking about medical expenses and like dental expenses. Those types of insurances are good to actually compare and discuss, and see whose plan is better, whose plan may be cheaper. You know, some companies that are larger, normally you would get a better plan. I'm hoping it's still the same, but you normally will get a better plan, and you'll get more in your plan for the money. Whereas like if you worked for a smaller company, the plan is typically a higher premium and not that many options. So that's something you should discuss and really look at and see like whose insurance is better, which way should we go. It shouldn't always be a situation where you just like go to like your husband's insurance. Your husband's insurance may not be good. I have a client, her husband's insurance is terrible. Like, when we talked about it, it doesn't cover much. Her insurance was better. And even though her insurance was a little bit more, when you looked at their numbers, it just made more sense, because if they stuck with the husband's insurance, they would have paid more out of pocket. So look at those type of options also when you're coming together. And you need to be proactive, because a lot of plans are like 30 days. I think it's 30 days you have to get on there after getting married. And if you're already married and you're on separate policy or separate medical insurances, we're coming up on enrollment season for the most part. I would really make comparisons with your spouses and see which way is the better option, because that does affect your take-home pay and may either bring more money in the house or save you if you have upcoming expenses. Same thing for dental insurance. For my husband and I, he had the better medical insurance, but his dental insurance doesn't cover a lot. It's cheap, but it doesn't cover a lot. So I hold the dental insurance for the family so that we're able to get all of the great stuff we want done to our teeth. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. And then the other type of insurance that's very important is car insurance. The reason why I'm bringing up car insurance is because, you know, you get multiple car discounts on your insurance. So if you're newly getting married, that's something you want to consider. But then even if, you know, you've been married for a while, you still want to look at these expenses and make sure like you're not being overcharged, if there's something out there cheaper. There's a lot of different variables about the cost of car insurance. So I wouldn't just go by what like somebody says, like, oh, well, my insurance is this or whatever. Living in New York, the insurance up here is high. And I really wanted to keep my Charlotte insurance, but that wouldn't have been honest. And my husband's very honest. So I went with his insurance, but earlier this year, I was like, these prices are a little high. Like, I really think we can get a better deal. I'm like, we've been driving for a long time. We don't have bad credit. We don't have accidents. Let's check, and we actually are saving, I think, almost like $100 on insurance a month. So that's about $1,200 a year on insurance. So you want to make sure that those are also options that you consider when you're merging your money. Let me see here. How do you handle using cash versus a debit card? Okay, so Kiana, I'm assuming you're talking about for just like daily expenses, not for like bills or anything like that. So I will tell you what I'm doing, but there's other options. I'll also mention people that I know who I'm close to, what they're doing as a married couple, because personal finance is personal, and I believe that you do what works for you. I'm not the type of person to say, oh, you need to do what I do. That might not work for you. So here's what we do. We have fund money accounts. So we have a bill account, but we also have fund money. This is our own money. We get to spend it however we want. We get to, we have the expenses taken care of, or for our household, we get to dictate how much we have going to our fund money account. So depending on the type of person you are, some people, I have friends who they use cash. So they just have one total account and they pull out cash, and then once the cash is gone, it's gone. And so they use that for their personal expenses. For us, we have a separate account each. And so for my fund money account, I get to spend it how I want to spend it. My husband, he gets to spend his account how he wants to spend it. He has hobbies and things that are expensive. So he's like a cyclist and things like that. So he gets to spend his money how he likes, eat lunch, things like that. I use my fund money account to eat lunch, normally buy clothes. I get caught up in these little cheapy stores around here sometimes and all that stuff. That's $2.99. That's what I use my account for. So I just use a debit card. I think that if you have a discipline problem, or you really want to be, not even if you have a discipline problem, if you feel like you're better with cash, then maybe using cash might be better. I will say that when I have cash, I'm more conscious of how I spend it. With my fund money account, I swipe. And I call myself Swiper because that fund money account is always close to zero around payday. I think right now is the most I've had in months, close to payday. And I think it's been only because I've been kind of on a big savings mode because we're going to be traveling. But other than that, just do what works for you. What is wrong, Tanil? Tanil, what do you use, Tanil? But I say do what works for you. So again, if cash works for you, use cash. If you can have like a separate account, like I only have so much go to my fund money account, and I adjust my fund money account according to what I have, like what I want to do or what I have going on or what goals I have. So just to be completely transparent, like right now I am on this big savings spree because my kid is in his senior year and they are telling me with these high school senior year expenses, I call it parent senioritis. So I have been like, and that's probably why I have a lot of money in there too. I have been saving, like spending less. So I've been like trying to do like $25 a week. But at one point I was doing $100 a week. So do what works for you, what your expenses and your goals will allow you to do. So that's why I backed down on it, because again, I don't want to be broke when the senior year is over. So I've kind of taken it down some and trying to shift more money into savings to pay for all these other expenses. Your husband thinks all the money is fun money. Oh no! See, that's why my husband didn't have a fun money account before he met me, but now he does. Way more conscious than when I swipe. Yes, yeah. Using cash using cash, like I'm like, oh, how much do I have? Like I will hold on to cash for a while, but with my card, but I will swipe. But I also know how much is in my fun money account because that's all that's in there. So that's that. Tennille says she has a separate fun account. I swipe it like no one's business, and when it's done, I don't even know what I spent it on. Oh yeah, definitely. There's some times where I'm like, I only got 50 cents. And it's like the Thursday before payday. I'm like, what was I doing? What else? Danielle says she loses cash and checks off it. I'm a swiper too. Yep. Shannon uses Mint to track her spending. I love Mint. Let me tell you about Mint. Mint will get me together. I need to go in there and adjust my budget. I will co-sign that with Mint. If you set your budget, when you get to swiping, Mint will tell you you went over in that category. So just a side note, I have a hair line item in my budget because I'm always buying hair stuff. You see, I'm natural, but it's always something for hair. So I went over in my hair products, and I didn't even realize Mint knew that that was a hair store. And they were like, you went over in your hair budget. I was like, ooh, so rude. Kiana says she needs a fun account. Yes, Carrie, Mint is, I love Mint. Mint gets me all the way together. Mint slowed me down, so I'm not buying any hair products for like at least a month or so because I was just going overboard last month. Yes, they do send you emails. Like they really get you together. When I see their name come up in my email, I'm like, oh, I probably spent too much. Yes, they do tell you when you're close, but I always just like randomly like go over in that area. It's not good. And I actually budget my hair budget in part of my fun money, so it works out for me. Yeah, you should try it out, Nan. Yeah, you should try out Mint. It's really good. Yeah, Quanisha, a fun account, let me tell you, it's absolutely necessary. I don't care if you are close to paycheck. You need a fun money account. It may not be a lot of money. It's just not realistic to think that you are going to go a whole, like, whatever your pay cycle is without having to spend it on something. Sometimes it can happen, right? Like you can go through and don't spend your money on anything unnecessary. But there's just times where you just have to, especially with kids anyway. I feel like with kids, you always end up spending your money on something you don't plan on spending it on. So I just think it's good to have that fun money account. Something comes up, then you're able to take care of it. Sometimes you have the best plan in the world, it doesn't work out. You have that fun money and you can yes, Carrie, even if you're paycheck to paycheck, you will spend on something. That is so true. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about the different ways to split up um, your accounts with your husband, like your budget. So if you already figured out how you handle your money, like whether or not you all pay it together, it's percentages, if you handle certain bills, go ahead and drop it in the comments, and then I'm going to get into this and talk about just a different way you can have your account split. Because I think that a lot of people feel like you have to merge everything together, which is good. You still should be open. So when I tell you about these different things, even though my husband has his fun money, I have my fun money, like we actually talk about these things about what we spend on and things like that. So it's not, and I can actually access if I wanted to his accounts and things like that. But it's just not something we feel the need to do. But you can be open about these things, and you definitely, if you want to have like more than one account, definitely find a bank that's not going to charge you a lot of fees, which means it's typically a smaller bank because these larger banks are trying to make their money. But you definitely want to try to find a bank that's going to be able to work with your actual needs. Carnisha said baseball is killing me. Yes, let me tell you, if my kid is on a college tour right now. They told us 3 weeks ago the price, and my feelings were hurt. I will tell you this, my feelings were hurt. I don't like to see a lot of money move out my account. That's why my fun money account is good for me, because I know that's play money, but I was just hurt. So, okay. So is it Elena or Alanna? I've seen you in the group before, and I'm like, we have the same name. But she says they have a household account. Each of us contributes enough to cover household expenses plus extra for the unexpected. Selena says we have only a joint account and a joint savings. Okay, so I'll tell what I have, and then we'll talk about the different options you have. So for me and my husband, we have a bill account. We have a bill account, and then we have like a joint. I call it a random savings. And when I say random, those for them things that come up that are really not emergency fund type situations, like you forgot somebody's graduation, birthday, oh, we're taking a trip. We put money in there for that. And then we have like our joint emergency fund. So that's what we have. But so there's several different ways you could split your accounts. The first thing is to keep everything separate except for a joint account to cover your household expenses. And so that's something where you can decide like, okay, how much our household expenses are. It's depending on how you contribute, depends on your obligation. So that's why I said it's good to know how much you make by yourself in your expenses by yourself, so that when you discuss how much you're going to contribute, you're not going to be in a tight space, especially if your spouse makes a different income from you. So to have a joint account for household expenses and then everything separate is really good for couples who are kind of like on the same playing field, where their income is about the same and their debt obligations are about the same. And so being able to do that, then they both will have additional money to be able to live their life and contribute to any other goals that they have, or support any hobbies or hair funds. The percentage method. This is great for couples who have like one couple who makes more than the other. So I had a client who, her and her spouse, they had it's not a huge shift, but I would say it was about a 60-40 split. And so what they decided to do was to have the person who makes the 60% contribute more to the expenses into their joint account, and then the person who made 40%, they contributed their percentage into the account. And that was good for them, because you don't want it to be a situation where, again, the resentment. So if you're doubling up and you just split everything down the middle, then that person who makes less money, they're not going to have that much money left over. They're kind of going to be just sitting there like, I don't want to say broke. I don't like to use that word, but they're going to be sitting there with less money. They're not going to be able to do things they may not be able to do things they want to do. And so you want to be able to make it a situation where both of you all are able to live a full life and still contribute to your goals, still contribute to your household expenses, once you decide how much you're going to contribute to the household. The next method is one person pays everything. So if one person makes significantly more than the other person, and maybe they feel the need to just pay for everything, that's an option. It also works if you're like a stay-at-home mom, or if you're in school, or it also works well in situations where, say, maybe one of the spouses is, working on a new business venture. Maybe one of the spouses is looking to pay off some debt. That's also an option. So the one spouse who has the income to do so will take all their income and pay it towards all of the household expenses and all of like the minimum payments on debt. And then the other spouse will take part of their income or either all of their income and throw it all on to the debt or into their venture, their business venture or things like that. So that's an option that you can do. Another one is the expense approach. I've worked with couples who have done this too, where they decide, okay, I'm going to pay these bills and you're going to pay these bills. And that's something you want to talk about together, where say maybe somebody just pays all of the rent and then the other spouse will pay all of the regular like utilities, all of the debt payments, maybe the car payments, things like that. That definitely works also in a situation where somebody makes significantly more than the other person. Typically your living expenses are the highest expenses. And so if somebody makes significantly more, maybe they can just cover that and then you cover all of the other bills. But again, be realistic about where you live before you decide to do options like that. Also, if you're new to an area, I don't know if you know, you could do this. You can call like the electric company, the gas company, give them the address of where you live, and they can give you the average of what the cost for that address was in the past. So that's a way so you can know like, okay, can I really afford this? And the other method is the one income approach, which is similar to the one person pays everything. You can use, again, one person to pay for all of the expenses, and then the other person is either saving their income and using like a piece of it for you all to live your lifestyle, like go out on dates and travel, or even same thing, if you want to pay debt, you can use that approach. Okay, let's see what else is in the comments. Yeah, Tanil, this is the stuff they don't really tell you. You know, I asked people before I got married about the way they were handling their finances, a few of my friends, just so that I can get an idea of what options I should do. But again, like, that's why I say it's good to be vulnerable, because people told me how they split their money, but they didn't really talk about like listening to what your spouse really wants and understanding their dreams and really being open to what they, you know, what they're saying and really hearing them. Because I can tell you the first few months, I was not hearing anything my husband was saying about what he truly wanted. It took a while for me to really hear like, oh, okay, you want to make sure you're taking care of the family. Oh, okay, this is really your dream to do this. Okay, like now that I know this, let me compromise some on, you know, some of the things I want. It's not like we can't do it together. There's things that we could still do together. And also just having that conversation with them and really understanding the process that it takes for them to do what they want to do. You really should get a good idea of like how long it's going to take, what steps do they feel they have to take, but don't like interrogate them. Like really just have that conversation just so that you can truly understand the process so you can plan better for it. Danielle said that they have a joint bill account too and a joint credit card. And I'm sure you hear my husband over here running the water and he knows I'm on live. Okay. So any other questions? I'll just open this up for Q&A. I see we've been on for 43 minutes. And I'll tell you where to find me if you're dropping questions. So my website is www.financialdemics.com, and you can find me everywhere under the handle of Financialdemics. I'm so glad Fab Wives invited me to kick off their Financially Fab series, and I really can't wait. Next week, Kendra is coming. Kendra Barnes is coming. And she is a real estate investor. So that's been a dream of mine. And I recently had a blog post where I said that was kind of like one of the financial mistakes I made in my 20s. I backed out when the market fell out, when I should have jumped in full force. So I can't wait to hear from her because I'm trying to get back into that. And then Carrie Pink is coming, and she's on tonight. Carrie Pink is coming the week after that to talk about managing your money and being a mommy. And Carrie is an awesome mom of, I'm going to say 5+ kids, because she is pregnant with her 6th kid. So I can't wait to hear from her on that. So I don't see any questions coming up. So it was great talking to you ladies tonight. I will be in the group. So if you have any future questions, or if you ask anything later, you can just drop them in the comments, and I'll definitely come in and answer for you. And everyone have a great night. Bye.